Now, the other name is Becky Lynch, who appeared as a guest on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani on Wednesday to promote her new book. By the way, CM Punk is going to be live in studio with Ariel tomorrow. His first interview with Ariel since he got fired by AEW and since he came back to WWE. And Ariel claims that nothing is off limits. Now, I'm sure there will be things that Punk cannot legally talk about, so that's not entirely true. But that is going to be a must-see interview. But Becky was on with him, and she revealed that she is in the final 2 months of her current WWE contract. Talks about a possible renewal have not even started yet. And she is challenging Rhea Ripley in one of the feature matches at WrestleMania next weekend. Now, he asked her if she felt disrespected that she doesn't have a new deal in front of her yet. She said, "At this stage in the game, contrary to a lot of the thoughts in the book of where I was coming up, I am so confident in my ability and my worth, I am not worried." And he asked her if she thinks that this could be her last WrestleMania, and she said that she doubts that. I do too. I mean, look, Seth Rollins also has a contract coming up in June, I believe. He's about to go through the same thing. It's like with Drew. I can't imagine any of these people leaving. You know, they're too valuable to the company, and they have a good thing going there. You know, no problems as far as anybody can tell, unless they get completely lowballed and they feel like they get a money offer that is disrespectful. And there's no indication since the Endeavor takeover that they're lowballing people. I know that was one of the concerns. That was one of the questions coming into the merger. Are they going to scale back on the money they pay to talent? In this case, we're talking about top talent in the company. These are people that they don't want to lose. You know, whether it be to AEW or anyone else. So Becky is not going anywhere. If Charlotte Flair signed a sweet new deal last fall, Becky will do the same. I'm very confident in that. She also said that she wants her match with Rhea Ripley to open night 1 of WrestleMania because she's never had the chance to open a WrestleMania before, and also because she wants to be able to watch Seth's match in the main event. Rollins is going to be closing out night 1, and my guess would be Rollins is probably going to open night 2 with McIntyre. Now, that wasn't all that Becky had to say on Helwani's show. She had some things to say about Ronda Rousey, who has been in the news lately. She, too, has a new book out. Becky's book dropped last Tuesday. Ronda's is out this Tuesday. Ronda has been very outspoken about her time in WWE, calling it an absolute shit show behind the scenes during her time there, and saying that the company was not willing to work with her on developing a story to lead to a singles match with her and Becky at WrestleMania. This would have been the WrestleMania after Ronda came back. So I guess that would have been WrestleMania 38. Now, when asked about Ronda's comments, Becky said this: "I have a very different view and a very different experience of WWE. I always wanted to do this. This is what I always wanted to do. I love this. Is it perfect? No, nothing is. Stuff like the creative? No, it's not always great. There's been a history of it not making sense to me. Join the club. Thank you for saying the quiet part out loud." But she said nobody is personally going, how do we make Becky Lynch look awful? But they have so much going on, and the fact that we pull everything off the way that we do, even at a time when notoriously the shows were getting rewritten as we were going live on the air, and we still go and get them done and went out, and we still hit our times, and we still made the show work. And no, it was not always great, but a lot of it was all of us doing the best that we can. Nobody wants to go out there and do bad work or make anybody look bad. You can tell that these people are so much happier with Vince being gone and working under Triple H. They can't come right out and say it, but their view is a lot more in sync with the fans than you may think. If you gave these people the choice of doing things the way that they were done there 3 years ago or 5 years ago and doing them the way they do it now, you know that today would win in a landslide. All right? Do a secret ballot. I would be shocked if it didn't come back 95% now over then. The air smells fresher. The catering tastes better. Cats and dogs are walking alongside one another in harmony. The wrestling world today is a better place without Vince McMahon in it. Now, on how WWE handled Ronda Rousey specifically, Becky had this to say. She was coming off a different industry. She was a star, and she should have been handled differently in terms of, I think she had such a great first outing that everybody thought, oh, she can wrestle. I mean this with respect, but she couldn't wrestle. What we do is not something that you can just have one good match and then, okay, yeah, I'm off to the races. It's a craft, and you have to learn your craft. You have to be diligent about learning your craft. But everybody treated Ronda like she already knew it because she first came in, she was good in that first match, but she was also going out there working with Kurt Angle. She was working with Triple H and with Stephanie McMahon. It was a well-rehearsed match because everybody wanted her to succeed. And then it was, okay, she can do this, off to the races. And that was mishandling her because she was a star in her own right and she had done so much for MMA. So in terms of that and booking, that was not done well. But my experience coming from nobody, thinking that I was going to be worth anything and making myself very valuable to the company and very valuable to wrestling in general, is because I loved it. Because I loved it and I sought out to do it. She came in and I think she found a place that she enjoyed, she liked, but she never sought to do it from a young age. And I think that changes the experience you have when you go into a place. Now, she's right about Ronda's debut. That match at WrestleMania 34 stole the show. But they also had weeks to rehearse and to prepare to make it as good as it was. It's not like they went out there and called it on the fly, or they got to the building that day a few hours before the show and said, all right, let's put a match together, right? I'm sure that went on for weeks. The other people on the roster, they don't have that same luxury. You can get exposed very quickly if people think that you're better than you really are. Logan Paul, he has fared very well so far. Even if he is still rehearsing some of his stuff, which I believe he is, he's got a gift when it comes to pro wrestling. The guy's a natural. He gets it. Not just the in-ring, but the character aspect of it. Ronda is someone who they treated very carefully during her first run. When she left and she came back 3 years later, she became just another person on the roster and treated the same as everybody else, which is when she started to sour on the whole process. Which is not to say that she may not have had good reasons to be sour. You hear Becky in that interview say the same thing. The creative was not always great. She thinks that they did her no favors with the creative. Ronda, I'm talking about. Like Becky said that herself. So she may have had valid reasons to be upset with what they wanted her to do, but, you know, the creative process, was the creative process and Vince McMahon the only ones to blame for her lackluster second run, or is she using that as a convenient scapegoat in her book to cover for the fact that once the training wheels came off and she couldn't rehearse everything move for move like she did when she first came in, she just wasn't as good? Maybe it's a little bit of both. Her promos were also terrible. Let's not forget, Ronda Rousey was not lighting the world on fire with most of her promo work. So you can't just blame that on creative. The best thing they could have done when she came back was make her a Paul Heyman girl. Let him do the talking for her, and let her go out there and armbar people. That would have been the ideal scenario, but Heyman was doing the bloodline stuff by then, so it just didn't work, and obviously Vince didn't want to do it anyway. But Becky's point about Ronda not growing up wanting to do this, I think I understand what she's saying. I think it's a fair point, although that does not necessarily mean that somebody cannot have a passion for wrestling or be really good at it and find success doing it. Right? How many wrestlers only became wrestlers because they got hurt playing football? Ron Simmons played football, Brian Pillman, Vader, Goldberg, all these men played in the NFL. They didn't all grow up watching wrestling on TV. Maybe some of them did, but they didn't all grow up watching wrestling on TV wanting to be the next Bruno Sammartino or the next Ric Flair or Dusty Rhodes or Hulk Hogan. But she's not wrong when she says that it changes the experience that you have when you get into wrestling. You're probably willing to tolerate more shit than the average person would coming into it. Or in her case, being a star, coming from another world. Now you've got to come into the wrestling business. Now you got to come into WWE and be treated like everybody else and eat shit sometimes. And she probably didn't like the taste of it. And that may have been part of the problem too. And it wasn't her first love. She did judo, then she did MMA, then she did wrestling. I think she got used to being a superstar outside of wrestling and her star faded during her second run. I mean, when I say that she truly felt like just another body on the roster, that's exactly what she became. The bloom was off the rose. The bloom was off the rose when they brought her back as a babyface, after all the shit that she talked about the fans on social media during her time away. Because she was really bothered by the reaction that she was getting at the time, and it just seemed to make sense. You know, she really let the fans get under her skin. I think that was a mistake, not leaning into that more. I mean, they did later on, but by then it was too late.